How can I set up a UDP NGINX reverse proxy, and how does it work? I have read the documentation on NGINX's UDP/TCP reverse proxy, but I am a little confused. Does NGINX need to be on both the proxy server and the server that the proxy will forward to? My configuration will be my NGINX UDP proxy server with two IPs, 5.0.0.0, 6.0.0.0, that I would like to rotate, which proxies, to 153.0.0.0. Port will be 2555. I am confused regarding the config. Listen directive to define the IP address and/or port on which the server listens. Does this mean the IP of the server that it will proxy to, 153.0.0.0, or the internal IP? Include the proxy_pass directive to define the proxy server or an upstream group to which the server forwards traffic. I am unsure what this means. Specify the proxy_bind directive and the IP address of the necessary network interface. Is this the internal IP or the external IP that it will bind to? 5.0.0.0. Possibly a simple configuration will help explain to me. I have found a few examples, but I am unsure which is the local, external, proxy server, or the server it is proxying IP, therefore, it doesn't help.
Does NGINX need to be on both the proxy server and the server that the proxy will forward to? This is typically not necessary. I am confused regarding the listen directive. The listen directive defines the IP address and/or port on which the server listens, as stated. Listening refers to monitoring incoming connections. The server is the computer hosting NGINX, so it refers to the IP and/or port of the computer receiving the proxy connections, to which that computer will then pass along. X listen to IP 127.0.0.1 on port 8080. X listen to all UDP traffic on port 53 DNS. I am unsure what this means. Include the proxy_pass directive to define the proxied server or an upstream group to which the server forwards traffic. The proxy_pass directive defines the computers as to which the NGINX proxy passes data, the servers that actually respond to a given request. This can be a URL, an IP address, or a group name. X URL proxy data is passed to example.com to complete the request. X IP proxy data is passed to IP 127.0.0.1 to complete the request. X group proxy data is passed to a member of the defined group to complete the request. Note the group above can contain ALS instead, e.g. backend1.example.com column 53. Specify the proxy_bind directive and the IP address of the necessary network interface. Is this the internal IP or the external IP that it will bind to? The proxy_bind directive makes outgoing connections to a proxied server originate from the specified local IP address with an optional port. So in most instances, it will be local, though binding to a remote IP is possible as detailed in the link. This option is likely only really useful if you have several network interfaces or need to choose a particular source IP address because a connection requires a specific IP to function correctly. Possibly a simple configuration will help explain things to me. This may or may not be appropriate for your situation, but a very simple TCP/HTTP example might look like. As a simple example of a UDP proxy. My configuration will be my NGINX UDP proxy server with two IPs 5.0.0.0, 6.0.0.0 that I would like to rotate, which proxies to 153.0.0.0. If I am not mistaken, if you want to truly rotate IPs, you may need a load balancer, perhaps another server with NGINX, in front of your proxy. I am not sure if this can be done purely internally.